And we're live. Welcome to Oracle Divination Network. Also, Omi's Production Studio. You've got your Omi Inca here live coming to you with a segment this Friday night. I welcome each and every one of you to this broadcast. And this is a live broadcast, and we are speaking to you about how to create our Elders Council. And this is one of the topics coming from the creating of the Elders Council. Africans must, we simply must present our way of life. And my reason for saying this is because if we are to change the way that we're governed and put ourselves in the judicial system, we are going to have to change the way we govern our life. How you doing, Rose Thomas? Thanks for joining. We are going to have to present our way of life. And I think it's high time that we stop trying to reinvent somebody else's lifestyle, knowing that we were the ones that brought reasoning and brought a way of life to society. Why have we wandered away and lost our way as to how to govern ourselves? And until we govern ourselves, everybody is going to want to have a hand in managing our lives. And this has to stop, because when you give your life over to somebody else to manage you, you tend to stand back and hope that they will have mercy on you, when you know in fact these are children that are governing and disciplining, and you have no business giving your will over to someone or subjecting your will to someone who's inadequate. We have civilized the world for many years. Our huts and tents, we taught young men how to go through the rites of passage, as well as the young women, when they would learn when they were in full capacitated man and womanhood. But we've fallen so low and so far away from who we are, we've forgotten our way of life. May I remind you, our way of life was reinvented by many denominations of people, races of people. They looked to the South and the West of Africa for their way of life, for their reasoning, to be exact. And we have lost the ability to reason with one another. We don't hold conversations well. We do not know how to apprenticeship our young people in problem solving and using their very own words. Time and time again, as a teacher, we say to the children, use your words, son. Do not hit. Use your words. Now look at the African race. We are not communicating. We are using fewer and fewer words, and we are hitting, and we are not reasoning. So therefore, when they see a group of people who are not governing themselves well, or who are in turmoil and constantly in debates over communication, this gives them the right and the go-ahead to step in to govern our lives. We have no business letting anyone that's still a child, that's an infantile, govern our lives as African Americans. We have to look to ourselves and point the finger at ourselves and say, had we never allowed them to govern us in judicial situations, we wouldn't have the problem that we're seeing on the streets today, with young men being bent over, told to show both their hands, and then to put their hands behind their back, and then to be beaten down to the ground. Who would have ever taken this amount of courage to step to an African? No one would have, because they knew that they were dealing with an age-old wise person that knew better. You do not let children govern you. And what we are doing is allowing the children to govern us, Eugene. How you doing? We are allowing the children to govern us. Now, let me say this to you. Let me see if I have any listeners here in YouTube. Let me say this to you. As long as you submit your will to this type of behavior, you will forevermore having the men in blue misgoverning you and overexerting their authority, which is what they're doing currently now, overexerting their authority. Every time you turn the news on, there is some African American that's being roughed up and mishandled by the men in blue. Somebody is giving them this authority, and I don't think it's just the guns talking. I think someone has already given them a pep talk before they go out into the streets. We keep crying out loud, saying, why do you keep doing this to our people? What is the problem? But as long as we keep submitting to this, even after the event is over, just marching in the streets is not enough. They are not taking it to heart because they know when they go into the courtroom, they're going to be vindicated. We cannot wait for them to be tried in the courtrooms. We've got to start now to create the Council of Elders, putting the elders in place and going to them, being on the offense and going to them. And they're putting us in the offense all the time running. We've got to put them in the offense, and we go to the courts beforehand. There's a number of things going wrong with the court system. And behind the scenes, for over 9 years, I sit with attorneys to talk to them about a number of things that are going wrong with our children. And when it comes to our children and families, that concerns me. As a family life educator, it concerns me. So I was called to the tables and asked if there was anything I could do to come in as a mediator to reside over some of these overabundant cases and to mediate for families who had children taken out of their home under the pretense that they had abused their child. Now, it don't take very much for you to be brought up on charges of abuse with your child. Not very much at all. And once these children are taken away, they do not go to the extreme to find a loved one to take that child. They immediately place that child in the system. And the courts, not being familiar with the best practices and the scientific laws of child development, they further abuse those children, further antagonizing our families and tearing them apart. I tell you, there's a war on the families, and to disjoint the child with the mother under any circumstance and to tear that child away from the family like a plantation whipping or selling, putting that child in the system to go up the river to some unknown family, thinking that they're protecting this child when they're further injuring this child and the family. And the mother falls apart, falls into desolate drinking, habitual alcoholic, drugs, you name it, because their child has been ripped away from them. Sometimes these cases only call for a mother going to nurturing classes and learning how to nurture that child and learning how to parent that child. There's a program called Co-Parenting Resolutionist that I participate in with lawyers and judges. And I've trained many people in the didactics of how to be a scientist as a co-parenting resolutionist, someone who will go in the courtroom with the parent to assist the parent as a surrogate, to help the parent meet the criteria of the judge, whether it be child development nurturing classes, or whether it be classes that they take to learn how to parent as a single parent once they've divorced. These things have been going on behind the scenes on my radio show. In my effort to entertain people, I was also addressing how to heal the Black families. Lawyers were coming to the rescue and the aid on an open radio show to talk to these parents and tell them there is family lawyers available to assist and aid you in getting your child back. A lot of these parents have done everything that the courts have requested, to no avail. And the courts have still not given their child back to someone in their immediate family, but instead sold their child away outside of the states to other families, usually of different races. I can't begin to tell you how many children I had in my classroom during the years who have been separated from their parents. They were with foster care parents. The majority of the children that I taught, I never got to meet the parents, but on a few circumstances where I met their parents, I took my responsibility to go to their homes, to surveil their home like a social worker, to see if I saw any indication that this was a misfit mother. And I tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the many homes that I visited, there was no indication that these were incompetent parents who had no nurturing skills, who were physically abusive. None other than those parents who wanted to whoop that butt when the child got out of place. And if you take on that nature, they say you're violent. They say you cannot raise your children. Who are they to tell us we cannot raise our children? Then they send our children away from us to be abused and molested and raped. And yet we stand back and watch the courts dismantle our families and our lives and take our children away and then come back for our man-child and take them away. And we sit here with all of our degrees talking about what a shame. It's a shame that you're not in the movement to change things. I'm going to get you in the movement. Since you all want to come to Facebook to waste time, I'm going to give you a challenge to see if you will fight for the little children. We fight for the youngest child in the family. And we help babies from the bench. Because these babies will continue to be in the courtroom and to be shifted from household to household, abused from every end, to the point of being withdrawn, to the point of being listlessness, and to the point of never having the capability of learning because they've been pulled away from their parent at a young age. But we have to create councils so that our councils are put in place. I'm going to give you a challenge. This is something where everyone can get involved. Everyone can meet at the council. You meet here every week under nonsense. I'm going to give you some real reasons to meet here because your specialty is wanted. If you are a professional, if you aspire to be a professional or just an advocate or a surrogate, you can be trained to be a part of the council of elders who petition on behalf of the parent to fight for those children that are toddlers to return back to the home no more or no less than 3 months to get these cases resolved and send the child home. He's better off home with his parent than with some stranger who's molesting them every night. Now there needs to be a council of advocates, specialists, stakeholders who meet together to talk about these cases. The court is overwhelmed. The judge is overwhelmed. He knows nothing about best practices for baby, and he knows nothing about the needs of a baby. And guess what? Baby can't wait till the judge reads the document. Baby don't have time because baby is slipping into mental illness. Now we've got infants and toddlers going to mental illness, and we've got specialists like myself going in to advocate on behalf of the mentally ill mother and the child. The mother becomes mentally ill because of what they've done to her in the system, and they've broken her down. Now the baby is reflecting off the mother, and the baby is withdrawn and mentally ill too. So who's creating this? Is it the courtrooms because they're delaying and placing that child back home? Is it the courtroom because they failed to get African American stakeholders involved to tell the judge what's the best practices? While that child is waiting, that child could be getting therapy. While that child is waiting, that child could have visitation rights with the mother, but they're denied. And the child is withdrawn and becomes mentally ill and unstable and refuse to eat and refuse to talk. Yet we sit here and say there's nothing we can do. There's a lot you can do. Get on these councils. Be a part of those family law cases. And be able to sit with the stakeholders and read through the files, tracking and monitoring how long it's taking that child to get back home, opposed to, is the child being damaged in the system even further? If that is the case, they're doing more damage than good. You have a job you can do, and that is to be one of the stakeholders to sit in these council meetings when social workers, family life educators, psychologists, parent resource people, child development providers, family life care providers, when all of these stakeholders come together to look the judge in the eye and say, Judge, this is a 2-year-old we're talking about. Do you not know the ages and stages of a child? This child is going through withdrawals. Why isn't the child in treatment? Why is the child in a holding pattern in someone's house they don't know, and they're hiding in closets because they're afraid that these people are going to molest them or fondle them? And we don't even talk about all the children that's being molested in these so-called foster homes. But yet, we think it's nothing we can do. There's a lot we can do. I brought all the lawyers together on my show to align myself with them specifically because they were family law specialists, because I had a job for them to do. They owe me. That's right. I bought the lawyers and put them in my back pocket, so when time came, they had a favor to repay me in helping these women and these families. And now they feel like they have to come back because I gave them free airtime on the radio. And sometimes we have to do this when we see a problem. And we know parents cannot afford lawyers. We know parents don't usually get a lawyer. They act as pro se and representing themselves because they don't have the money. But we can do a lot better than this. We can do a lot better as a council of elders. If you are a mother, you are a person that's a stakeholder. You have a stakeholder in this. Your child can be taken any time, under any circumstance, and you be hauled off the court and your child be hauled off to another state, never to be seen again. It's the same form that they've taken with slavery. It's just under a different name. And if you look out in the community, there's signs everywhere. Why not be a foster parent? Why not be a foster parent? Then you hear all these foster parents bragging, girl, I'm getting big time money. I'm getting paid for taking care of these foster kids. I'm going to get me 2 more of them. Like they're a commodity. And nobody's monitoring these children. When they don't return home and they turn up in somebody's morgue, who's going to cry for them? Who's going to fret for them? It's a lot we can do. We need to stop waiting till a problem hits the court and then we stand outside looking all solemn. We need to start being proactive and doing things beforehand to put things in place. Why don't we have a council of elders with professionals on there who have degrees, that can use their degrees to stand up and speak and take their professional level to another level and use their child development background. If you're retired like I am, you have an obligation to do pro bono work. As a paralegal, I am obligated to do pro bono work and have done pro bono work for the NAACP to read and to research cases. We have an obligation. We don't have time to be sitting up here on Facebook nosing and brown nosing and bragging and talking about this one, that one. Our family is going to pits and we're doing nothing about it. Not a darn thing, Miss Shabazz. And we don't have to be lawyers and attorneys. We just have to have a vested interest and think about those children crying out in the night when they're taken off to other cities away from their loved ones. And loved ones, you hear about your children, your family members being taken away from. If you have to take shifts and taking care of them, don't let them be taken out of the family. My family didn't. My family didn't, because when 9 children were up for adoption, my sister said, not on my watch, I'll take all 9 of them. Because she knew what the destitute that could possibly happen to those children. She said, I'll take all 9 of them, and by the grace of God, I'll raise them. She didn't say, I don't want this one or that one, or I don't have enough food in my home for this one. Well, she took all 9 of them. When my brother and I was up for the potential of being adopted, she said, not on my watch, I'll take my brothers and sisters. How many of you black people have stood up knowing that your children, your family's children are being taken out of their home, and you turn a deaf ear and a jaundiced eye to what's happening in the courtroom, and you don't show up and you don't support your loved ones? It's a doggone shame. But we need a council of elders. And that's what I came here to talk to you about. Because if you create the council of elders, then maybe you might not have to take them to your home. Just show up at a couple of meetings to talk about those children who are trapped in the foster home. I take a personal interest in this because I was one of the ones that escaped it. I was one of the ones who never had to experience it. So I have an obligation, I have a debt to pay, and some of you do too. I've been saying we need a council of elders because our black people need some security. We need some safety, because anytime somebody can come in the middle of the night and take you out of the bed and take you down to the station and don't have to tell you what the charges are, you're vulnerable too. Now, we're not coming on here playing. I don't have time to play with you. I don't have time to tittle your ears to make it feel good. I'm telling you like the T.I. is. This is the bucket-naked truth. Children are being sent away outside of their community. Children are being further abused, and that's against the law. Can't sit here any longer and shake our fingers and say, what a disgrace. We got to get up off of our butts and do something. And I said before, don't do anything, stand there, because it wasn't our fight. Now this is our fight when it comes to our black children being taken out of our community. This concerns us because every child is somebody's child. And we've got to take it up in our spirits to believe that if we develop a council and every time the family law is in session, we're down at the courtroom and we are voicing our opinion as stakeholders and professionals, and we are submitting to the judge that we know what's best for baby, and we know that baby can't wait, so you can't put baby in a holding pattern. You got to move baby back to her home or his home as quickly as possible. Now, I've been working on this for the past 9 years, knowing that it was going to come to having an overflux of children in the social service system. And as you look around the community, as we talk about all the black men that are being abused on the street, baby is being abused in the courtroom, in the family courtrooms. Have more sensitivity for those infant and toddlers who cannot advocate on behalf of themselves. We have an obligation, women, as mothers, we have an obligation. Every child is ours. And we are the spokesperson, the ombudsman for those infants who can't speak for themselves. And if we're going to get our families back together, we got to get our children home and back to their parents. We cannot be giving them off to these people who are getting them for $1,000 to $3,000 for 2 or 3 kids and making money off of them. They're not raising them. Some of these children are being used in abusive situations. And when they come back home, they don't know their mothers, and then they become trouble and problems in the home. We got to do something about it. This is the area that we could do something about. Because when the children come to school, they're wayward. They don't want to be in these family homes that they've been submitted to. They tell you they want to go back home to their mothers. The mothers don't have proper visitation rights, and sometimes the children are never given back. These are things that can be overturned in court. And with us having a council meeting twice a month to confront the judge about the best practices by showing him the best practices for infant and toddler, by teaching him he can get better at his job and change the verdicts to guilty to non-guilty and send the child back home. But if he don't understand the way in which black people live and the way in which we discipline, he may think we've half killed the child when we're only trying to turn the child around. Many of you got whippings when you came up and you didn't die or you didn't perish, and we thought our parents were good parents. But those days have gone, so we have to reteach our parents that because a white man is watching over you, you cannot rule with an iron fist like your mothers did. That doesn't mean they're a bad parent. It means that they're trying to stop their child from being wayward. And we can step in as professionals with master's degrees and specialties in child development and explain to the judge, and he can be more sensitive about turning that child home around and sending them home. We can do that much. We can make a difference in keeping those children home. And it's not to let the mother off the hook, but to mandate that she go to parenting classes to learn how to become a parent. Everybody that births a child is not a parent. So we got to get these mothers in parenting classes. We got to get them taking those courses so they're better parents, so they don't put their job out on the line first instead of their child. If they lay on their back to have a child, they have to know the consequences. And we have to reward them to prevent second pregnancies so that the father is in the child's life and that they parent dually together, even though they're not married, or they co-parent and the father is involved in the child's life. Every stupid mother that lets a man escape being involved in the child's life is ignorant. You're a sperm bank. If you lay down there and get pregnant by the man, you must say you must be involved in his life. Because you cannot just bring imbeciles into this world without training them. And if you're trying to go to work 8 to 5 and there's nobody there to dual parent with you, you're going to do a lousy job unless you have the balance, someone to assist you. So we want to help you do it. We want to show you how to be a better parent and how to co-parent with your significant other. He helped make that baby. Now make him mandate that he has a part in that child's life to co-parent. I train many co-parenters to show them how it's done when that father is absent, to show us how it's done, that you include that father in that child's life during holidays, during special times, but don't let him off the hook. He's responsible. One thing I can say, my husband was a parent all the way throughout my child's life, and I wouldn't let him off the hook. And I'm telling you not to let him off the hook. When it comes to someone picking them up from school, dropping them off, taking them to their performances, after school event, have him involved. The courts will mandate that they be involved. So when you go to court, the court will outline to them what their responsibilities are, and you will have to keep a map and a record and a schedule of how you're going to engraft that father into the child's life. These are some of the things that have to be taught. They're not automatically understood. You have to ingrain these in those parents. Because they think having children is like growing weeds. Well, it's not. It's a commitment. And if you don't raise them, the courts will throw them in the system. And they'll be raised by a surrogate parent who could give less. So we are going to talk about our way of life. Let me slow down a minute. Just what is our way of life? And what am I talking about? Apparently, our way of life is different from the Caucasian because we believe in using the rod and sparing not the rod. And we believe in getting in that butt and challenging that child. And we believe in punishment. Now, some parents don't punish or whip the child till they're angry. Never, ever whip a child when you're angry, because you're usually taking out something on that child that the child is not responsible for. When you're angry, you go and take a nap. And when you have come to your senses, then think about spanking the child and understanding how many licks to give and what to whip with. Some of us are out of control. We are whipping as if we are whipping Kunta Kinte to the point where we are letting everything out. Then you have no business whooping a child. So we've got to get our parents in order to explain to them what a good parent is, meaning being vested in your child, meaning being connected to your child and showing your child love. There's a number of us who were never loved when we were growing up, and we don't know how to love. And that's one thing my parents made sure that I knew something about during the course of the day, to stop and give a child a hug and to affirm the child and let the child know you are happy and pleased with their behavior. A lot of children act out because they're trying to get attention. Bad attention is just as good, for children. They want attention. They don't care how they get it. And they want love. Those are the Maslow higher needs. They must have love. And we have a lot of children that are lacking love these days. And if a good teacher can come in and show love to their children, they can get their children to do just about anything. And children need love just like they do air and water. But it's very vital that we got to stop coming on these shows just to listen for an entertainment. I don't have an entertainment to give you. I'm going to give you some news to put you to work. Let's go to work. Because we keep seeing people marching down the street, and that's the way they go to work. I want to talk to you about our way of life. We know our way of life was good. We know that no child on the block went without any meals because they were always fed. We know that our neighbors were our true friends, and we could turn to them and tell them things when things weren't going right financially, and we didn't hear it all throughout the block. We got to change our ways. We're looking to the white man with the jaundiced eye and being upset, but we can't do anything about his shallow nature and about his incompetency, but we can go into our community and make a change so they can see that we have made a change. And just as we made a change, over in the book of 2 Timothy said that you cannot change others, but you can cause them to change by the way you rally yourself around them. That's how you cause change. You change yourself. And when they see the change in you, they will make that change. We've got to start loving each other more and being concerned about each other as our brother and as our keeper. When someone dies in the family and blood calls, blood answers. You got to take off work of 2 jobs. You take off work to go show your honor and respect. I'm trying to instill that concept in my family now. In this new young world, they don't have it. They think as long as their immediate family is okay, it's fine. But I'm talking about blood. Because when your brother or sister over in another neighboring state is bleeding, you're bleeding too. And our young people these days don't know that. It's all about the grind and getting through for me and mine. But you have to look at the namesake. Is it in the family? Then let's go and pay our honor and our respect, because that's our family. So can we talk here, family? Can we talk here? I don't want to come on these airways just to talk to you about simple things and chew the fat. I'm talking because we have defined a problem. So now we must find a solution. And the solution is a council of elders to show them our way of life. Our way of life is a good life. Those of us who maintain those traditions in our family, such as coming together for big gatherings such as Thanksgiving parties and coming together during Christmas parties. These are our ways. We must pass them on. You must not be so busy scuffling, trying to make $1 to live that you forget your rituals and your tradition. And speaking of tradition, we're going to keep on teaching you tradition about libation. The benefit of bringing libation, because you bring all of your family members together, dead and alive, and you invite the spirit in by way of pouring libation as a seal and a safety to seal your house, as if you're putting a hyssop over your house for protection. You're not safe anymore in your home. But with the seal of libation, it protects your home and your family home. So when someone that comes to do something to you, the seal will be over the door like the Black Panther to protect you. That's our way of life. We look for protection. We don't want no trouble. We don't want no trouble at all. That's why Nana Padez said, take this with you, son. Take this with you, daughter. Put it around your neck. Put it in your bosom. It will protect you. And you can carry a little bit of me with you. And that's when we got to start looking at our old ways. What did mother used to tell us? If you step on a crack, you're stepping on your mother's back. Don't take that as foolishness. That's how we lived our life. And it's not about being superstitious. It's about being cautious. Because Black folks are walking the chalk every day. Every day of their life, they're walking in danger. They don't know if they're going to return home from going on a shopping cruise or going into the grocery store. They don't know what's going to be set them. So wouldn't it be nice to have a charm that will ward off those people to make you invisible? Oh, if I could be invisible, it would be my claim to fame. So the world can't see me. This was a young boy's song. Oh, if I can be invisible, which is my claim to fame. And that is your claim to fame, making yourself invisible to them. When you are minding our way, we weren't starting no trouble with nobody. We were becoming like a vapor so they couldn't see us and sliding on by, letting confusion pass us on by. That's our way. Do you know a way that the Black folks used to be? Then you need to define it and quit trying to be like them. And say, oh, I'm just as good as the white folks. I'm just as good as the white folks. May I tell you something? You're better than them. And you don't have to measure yourself to them, because you're the one helped to humanize them. So you don't have to run around here comparing yourself to nobody when you're the original first people. What is your way? Please, somebody tell me, what is our way? What is the way that we practice, that we do ordinarily without anybody even teaching us? We've lost our way. We've given it back in lieu of accepting their ways. We want our hair straightened. Oh, we can't wear it kinky. Why are you wearing your hair kinky? Oh, no, that don't look good. What do you mean that don't look good? This is our way. What are you talking about? Well, you know what the white folks gonna say? The white folks ain't gonna like that. We are too busy measuring up to them when they need our way. They have lost their way. And we have collapsed into their madness. How are you going to escape this? It's by going back to your way of life and presenting it as a brand new philosophy. Let me introduce you to it for some of you who don't know anything about it. And I think I'm on good grounds to say this, because people tend to ask us, how did y'all make it with 18 children in your house? Were y'all able to eat all the time? And how? Ooh, girl, just tell me how. We had a way of life. We didn't stray from it. And we were dignitaries with the political society of Mayor Hatchett, allowing Mayor Hatchett to dine at our table, him requesting to come to our house to dine because it was elegant. We had a way of life, a practice that he aspired to. You can have a way of life too, but you got to be consistent to who you are as Black people and stop trying to be on probation to become white, waiting to become accepted. You're never going to be accepted. Love yourself and accept your own. And stop saying, I'm not African. You are African. By virtue of the burnt skin on your face, you are Nubian. Take a look at it. You are Nubian. You can't change that if you wanted to. You came from the African descendant. Now, what is our way of life? Our way of life is how we carry ourselves. Our way of life is how we date and how we present ourselves. And you know, our character goes ahead of us. So we present ourselves well by making sure that we're consistent and not inconsistent with the way of life. We don't just have to have the manual, the Bible to guide us. We have an inward transmission of God speaking to us about our character and our dignity and our equality. And the fact that when we bring shame upon ourselves, we bring shame upon our whole household. And when you shame the whole household, you've damaged your name. And your name is something that you must keep clean. There's so many of us who become liars and practices of liars that when a white man see us as a Black people, he said, those are liars over there. All they do is lie. And then we start lying when they come close to us and telling them tales and saying things that we know are not true just to keep them satisfied. Stop lying for white folks and tell them what's on your mind and tell them how you feel. If you don't feel right about something, tell them, never mind what they think of you. They will honor you and give you dignity and equality for being a real person. And don't be afraid, because your truth will set you free so that they will learn how to have respect for you. R-S-P-E-C-T is what you want for them. You don't care if they don't love you, and they're never going to love you. So stop trying to get them to love you, kissing up to them, telling them things that are not true, and expressing yourself to them like they need you to be their Aunt or Mammy, like they need you to always cover them. No. Quit lying to them just so they can like you. Be yourself and tell the truth. This is our way. If the Black man didn't have anything good to say, they kept their mouth closed and they didn't say anything. They didn't scratch where they didn't itch, and they didn't buck and shine just to keep them laughing at them and keeping them, patting them on the head saying, good Negro. That's not what we want you to be. Be yourself. Show them the characteristics of being yourself. Show them that you do not have to buck when you don't itch. You don't have to scratch. when you're not itching. You go and be yourself so they can learn to respect us as a black people and not say those are some ignorant people over there. They keep bucking all the time when we come in the room. They keep scratching when they're not itching. Excuse me. It's vitally important that we learn who we are. Now, I've told you so many times that you're princes and kings and queens. You're descended from great heritage, and you're coming from great stock. Why is it that everybody know that we're the Hebrew, and they're waiting for us to come back to Israel, and we're still confused as to who we are at the 1300 hour? We still don't know who we are. And yet other people discuss us and our status over in foreign lands. By now, God should have come to you in your sleep and said, your practices and your ways are not like those ways that are beneath you. These are ways of God. God's ways are higher than anyone else. We are God, little children. We have overcome them. Our ways are higher than theirs. And while we always say, I'm just as good as them, and your way of life have to be practiced in a certain way, and they are to be. Why not carry yourself royal? Why not have a mantra that exemplifies a queen, a terrier? My particular logo is a terrier, is a terrier of a queen wearing her headdress. Because you must know who you are. Then people don't mess with you. No, I'm not going to mess with that Negro because she knows who she is. She's awake. You got to wake up and use your way of life. If you don't know it, pick up the history books and read beyond slavery. 1865, read beyond that. Ancients and eons beyond that. So you really know who you are. Poor Kanye West. Oh, I feel sorry for the man. He is shrinking because he has lost his way. If his mother had been here to continue to tell him, Kanye, you come from greatness. Kanye, you are the prince of princes. Kanye, you are Kuta Kinte's lineage. Kanye, why are you diminishing yourself? This man is looking to you for guidance when you're in his bosom like a child and spurting out statements that you know are not true. One thing we know that he comes to rob, steal, and kill and to accuse the brethren. And we know that the truth is not in him. And that the lust of his fathers he shall do. And when we know his nature and his character, why are we confused as to who these people are? We know that there's mankind, and there's also a kind of man. Let me say that again. We know that there's mankind, and there's also a kind of man. So what manner of man is he that will mistreat African American people for no reason? What manner of man, or is this a man, or is this a kind of man? You have to keep reading beyond slavery. You have a history. You have a lineage. And not just a heritage, you have a history. And all history of man bounces off of African history. There is no Greek philosophy, only African philosophy. When you know who you are, you will carry yourself better, you will act better, you will function better, and you will know that no manner of depleting you can destroy you. When we are still living to this day, and all of the character assassination that was done to our forefathers, and we're still standing strong today with our chins up and our heads to the sky. Keep your head to the sky. Keep your heads to the sky. song was meant for something. We don't have the kind of songs like that, lifting us up when time is short and when we are beaten down, and then we hear that song. Keep your heads to the sky. Keep your heads to the sky. Encouraging you every day, no matter what happened, to keep your heads to the sky, my brothers and sisters. We don't have those kind of songs. When the rhythm changed and the beat changed and the step changed, we lost our beat and we didn't have that step or that punch that we needed to keep that scroll going, knowing that no matter what, to see how they were going to jump to it. And if they jumped to it, they knew that it was going to fly. But I want to say something to you, dear people. You're original. You are creators. And the dances that you see them trying to do and keep beat with us, original brothers and sisters. So don't go saying we're all the same. That's not our way. So which way? Which way? You say, well, which way? When you're in a community, when you're in a community and there are problems and your family is suffering, you must understand it is your obligation to roll your sleeves up. Let's see. Hold on. A child that they're trying to move out of the boundary lines of the city could keep that child. Never let children go out of our community that we didn't know where they were going. We followed those children. We followed them, and we went into courtrooms and we begged for those children so they wouldn't go to someone else's home. And mothers, you could do that. You have the power and authority to do that. You can go in there and say something and say, hey, I don't want these children going out of the state. We could take care of them for a couple of months until the mother can get better, until she can come home. But we got to see about our people in our neighborhood. That's what we do best. We are each other's keepers. And we are the mothers and fathers of the community. We have a communal lifestyle. That is our way. And this is a way of life. This is the only church we should be going to, is a church of amen. The church is in mourning, y'all. The church is in mourning. I love the Lord because he heard my cry and pitied my every groan. See, the church is in mourning right now because we're the church, not some building. We're the church in our communities, in our home. We're the church. If you stop putting your nickels and dimes in that building down the street, then they can stop giving it to the government to take it and build houses with it and build resources with it, and your money's doing you no good. It's like it has a hole in the bucket and you're not benefiting from the money. Take the money and come and go to the homes and have church there. And if there's something that that family needs, continue to give until it hurts and help that particular family to build and pay their bills and switch that church up in the community and have church at home. We did it. We had church at home for about 2 years, going from our house to different houses and building up ourselves before we decided to put the money in a building. See, we got to understand that we're the living epistle. We're the temple. And this is the way we do it. This is our way. And not somebody else's fictitious way where they want us to live like Europeans. We can't do it. You can't do it. You can get up the ladder. You can get to those high positions. But I guarantee you, you're going to come tumbling down like Humpty Dumpty who fell off the wall. You'll get there. But when they get tired of you, you'll come down. So we got to understand. Our communities is what we have a say-so over. Even if they have redlining, we still got to do unto others as we want them to do unto us. And we got to build communities differently. And we got to be involved when our people are involved in a courtroom case. As you know, Brett Kavanaugh, he got admitted to the Supreme Courts, but yet they tell me he still can be brought down. They still can go to court on him. But yet he was never tried for anything. He just went and was promoted. And we keep seeing these things happen again and again and again. And we are not doing anything about it, but just sitting here looking and waving. Oh, look at the white man. He's making it up the ladder. He's getting promoted. Go, Kavanaugh. Please. And we're saying, well, there's nothing we can do. There's always something that you can do. Always something that you can do. There's always a way you can build your own community. And I'm saying that we have a way of life, and we must recognize it, and we must stop with all of this stuff like we got to be like the Joneses, we got to do what they're doing, we got to come away from their way of life, because we slowly see them self-destructing. And we're going to go down right with them if we keep carrying on as if their way of life is the right way. You must come away from this, practicing the heresy that they practice, because they become liars and the truth is not in them. And you begin to want their approval, and you begin to want them to fashion you and to sustain you, and you act like a mammy to them because you're securing them and giving them accolades to keep them thinking that you're accepting them. When you don't accept them and don't approve them, say so. Let them know and then present to them your way of life. Some of them used to catch on, and they used to love the way we live and wanted to have a part in it. But we've become so much like them, and we've forgotten the way to our own door, and we don't know the combination to unlock the door, and we've locked ourselves outside of our homes, and we're lost now, and wonder why so much stuff is happening to us. It's because we put ourselves in the same position they're in, because God said he's going to let it rain on the just and the unjust. So how can you say that you're a Christian when you're acting like them? That's why nobody has any respect for Christianity, because the people that call themselves Christian can do anything under the sun and still think that they're sanctified and set aside. You're not, and you're a liar, and you're a thief. Because when you are holy and set aside, there's certain things you just don't do. What's our way of life? What do you mean things we don't do? We don't lay up with other men, especially those who are married. We don't go to the church to bastardize our sisters, to hurl them out and to backbite them. It's certain things we don't do in our way of life. So what's our way of life? We've fallen so far away from it, it's not practiced in our community. What is our way of life? Your way of life is when you see an opposition and one of your brothers or sisters are in trouble, you go to their aid and rescue. You speak out on it. You become a voice for those who are voiceless. That's our way. Well, what is our way? I mean, tell me, I want to be politically correct. What's our way? Quit running behind these politicians, thinking that it's going to make a difference. They all are one and the same. Formalize your own unified field. Hello, Eddie Brown. Hello, Sheena William. Hello, Sandra Bell. Hello, Lancer Desort. Hello, Lancer Desort. Hey, how you doing? Hello, Arthur Ray. Hello, Lancer. Okay. Hello, Aaron Hopkins. Hello, let's see here who we got here. Hello, Elaine Yancey. Hello, Elaine Yancey. How's everyone doing this evening? I hope you're feeling fine. How's the African feel this evening? And how are the children? You're supposed to say, feeling strong, very strong. And the way is the African way. So when I asked you, how does the African feel? You said the African's feeling strong, very strong, and getting stronger. And how are the children? Everything is centered around the children. We take the temperament of the children just like the Native Americans do. If the children are all happy, then the house is in order. If there's something wrong with the children, the house is not in order. So how does the African feel this evening? Do I hear anyone say feeling strong, very strong? And how are the children? You said the children are getting even stronger. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to me to talk about our way of life and how we should build our way of life. Let us try to remember what our ancestors did and how they carried on in their tradition. And let us pass those traditions on this Thanksgiving. And let us create traditions in our household. Don't let a time pass by when you do not forsaken the gathering of yourself together. And during the holiday of Thanksgiving is when we bring tradition into place. And no matter what somebody else is doing to call you out of order, you call them into order and say, I am practicing tradition. We are setting tradition here. We are meeting together traditionally. Sometimes we have family members that bring up all types of nonsense things. Instead of saying, hey, can't you change that date? I have a traditional meeting to make. It's my father's birthday. It's Thanksgiving, and we're meeting. This is our way of life. And when you deviate from your way of life, you don't have a course. And when things get rough, you become like Kanye West. You get off track and you're lost. You have no alliance and you don't know who your father is. This young man could be lacking a father image, and he's leaning over to someone that cannot be a father to him, that might be a snake in the grass. And what do snakes do when we wrap our arms around them, knowing that they have venom and knowing that they will strike out at us, and then we wonder why they bite us and they damage us when we wrapped ourselves around them, knowing that they were a snake and knowing what their nature is. Well, we have the nature of Christ. We are not Jesus, but we have a Christ-like behavior. Jesus' title is Christ. That is his Christ-like behavior. And Jesus is just like Oromala, the God with a big head full of wisdom. And we relate to our gods, and our gods are black gods. Believe it or not, we bow down to a woolly head black God and not to a blue-eyed soul brother. Because at the Council of Nicaea, they put Jesus Christ into place. They slipped out the blue-black man and put in the blonde-haired, blue-eyed soul brother and gave us a Jesus. We didn't always have a white Jesus. At one time, we had a black Jesus. Believe it or not, it's over in Europe. I had a chance to see it with my own eyes, the black Madonna and the black Jesus. So when they give you an image of Jesus and put him in the image of their own people, what are you doing? Bowing down to their gods. You must create your God in your own image, else you will hate the one and love the other. So are you hating your own self because someone presented to you a white, blue-eyed soul brother God? Yes, you are. Take the images down. This is our way. Put up the black images in your household and see God in the image of a black man. The God is really you. You don't really need a picture. All you need to do is look in the mirror at yourself each morning and say, hello, God. Welcome to the universe. I hope we're in the practices of doing the things that gods do. God makes affirmation. Gods affirm things. God speak things that be not as though they were. Then when you begin to act like a God, study yourself like you are the God. You are the only God that anybody will ever see. You must learn to get to know yourself as God, because God cooperatively takes up residence within your being. He resides within you. There is no God that you are to look for outside of yourself. So quit worshiping a false God. It's idolatry worshiping when you worship anything outside of yourself. We must learn our way quickly and fast, Judith. We must learn our way quickly and fast, Bruce. It's our way to be on top and not be living a basement life. Your consciousness determines the type of lifestyle you'll live. Your consciousness will determine if you live up in the halos of your continent and of your third eye. If you can't begin to think above your medulla oblongata and you're at the basement lifestyle, that means that your cum laude has to help you rise up to the level so your third eye is open, so you can see beyond the basement life. A lot of us are living basement lives because we can't believe that we're God's and that we desire and we are required to live like God's. Some people are afraid. If you can do 70, God can do 30. You can live above your means when God is on your side. You can aspire to have more when God is aspiring with you. You're not doing this by yourself. You remember, you cooperatively are working together with God, so you can't possibly do it in your own strength. God is the one that said he will avenge your adversary. He's responsible for you. You dream dreams and let God help you carry them out, and never believe that you have to be beneath anything. Whenever a black person is involved in something, they have to aspire to be on top and not the lowest man on the totem pole. You can't keep a black man down. No matter when they try to crush us to the earth, we always rise to the top. And then somehow we end up on top and they wonder, how did they get to the top? I thought I put them out in ashes a long time ago. How did they make it back? Because we were designed to be on top. We were designed to be the indigenous people, showing others the way and showing and guiding in all aspects of life. We are a soul man. There are none other creatures on this earth that carries a soul like the first indigenous people. Test me on it. You may have a spirit, but all other men do not have a soul, because they were not the first world indigenous people. Only the black people were the first indigenous people here who carried a soul. Now, what's the difference between a soul and a spirit? There's a lot of difference. You go do the homework and find out. A soul can incarnate. A soul can come back. But those who don't have a soul will not come back. That is the difference. And know this. This is enough to get you holding your head to the sky. Keep your head to the sky. I said, keep your heads to the sky. This is enough to keep you a little bit arrogant and holding your heads to the sky, to know that you have a chance to be reincarnated. And we don't know which life you're working on now. You may have been reincarnated 1, 2, 3 times, 4 times, but your soul can be reincarnated and your soul cannot die. It lives forever and ever and ever and ever. Amen. Thank you very much. You've been a great listening audience, and I do hope you aspire to be indigenous first world people so you can incarnate into greatness and not to be diminished by losing your spirits. Every insect and every creature on this earth has a spirit and a nature, but all of them do not carry souls. If they weren't invented with the first world indigenous people when God said, let us make man in our own image, then it isn't so. Only those who were made in the image of Oromala, who you kneeled at his feet and you told him the inception of why you were coming here. He knows the inception of all men because you whispered in his ear and said, "Oh, Romala, I need to go to earth. Please send me. There's something I must do." Each of you bargained with Oromala and you set into contract and you signed the contract asking to come here. You have a mission. You have a purpose. Each of you have asked to come here because you had a way of life that you wanted God to see how you can produce life through your eyes so God can live his life through you. You must understand that God needs you to have life and vision through. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you that God don't need you. God does need you to know experience through, because he can't do one thing. He can't come down here and reduce himself to a man, because he said he gave us dominion and told us to subdue the earth. He will not come down here against his will. He will live through our eyes, and thank God that God can live through all of our lives. And he said greater things that we will do than he and Jesus did. So we have the capabilities of being those small gods with the big head full of wisdom. And we can lead God into all visions because we're the gods today. And we must acknowledge that we're the God. It is our way. It is our way to be the gods. And they're waiting for us to wake up. Why don't you wake up and stop taking the abuse and start realizing that they're waiting for us to come into our right standing so we can govern properly? Why do you think they're having a big celebration next year around January? We would have been out of slavery over 400 years. They're now going to allow us to celebrate and to present to the world the slaves out of 400 years. What will you produce and show the world that Africans can do? You must show them that we're original people, that we are bush people, and that we have our own identical ways that others must follow us. We don't follow them, they follow us. We are the way, the truth, and the light. Amen. God bless you all, and thank you so much for attending today. Go in peace. What time is it? Oh, we still got a little time here. I'm trying to see, I have to watch the time here. Now, are there any questions? Is there anything you can tell me about what your spirit is saying? I love to hear from you. I'm on 2 stations here, and I'm trying to watch for the YouTube as I talk to everyone here. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Hi, Rose. We're waiting to hear somebody to speak right now. If anybody wants to come up and say something, please write something down. And I don't know what's wrong with my set why I can't get people up there writing something down. If you want to say something, please do. I'd love to hear from you. And somebody said, can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me now? Give me a yes or something or no. Because I did turn everything up. So can everyone hear me now? How about over here? See, it's hard to see what's going on with this YouTube here. Let's see. Okay. And we're going to bid you farewell. We say Odabo, and thank you so much. Facebook was there following us. And I want to say for the record, we have to have a way of life, and we have to begin to start practicing our way of life and presenting our council of elders and introducing our way of life. Knowing that our way of life is different, we have to stop saying we're just like them. That is what's gotten us in trouble. Our children have come to school with fewer than 5,000 words, and they've documented this. Even though we know, in fact, that it was incorrect, they came to school with Ebonics, and they spoke Ebonics, which was a regularized code and a language. So there were fewer than 5,000 words. It's just that they were being embarked upon to speak English, which was their second language, and they should have been in English as a second language classes that were sheltered to help teach them their culture and their heritage. And that wasn't done, and they were forced into special ed classes, further inundating them into specialized classes where they weren't being taught to read or to write. So it is a deficit for our children. It is not our way of life. Our children are very loquacious children who speak and who talk and who can express themselves, but by their regularized code. And they must be taught Orthodox English and the King's way, of course, to function in the King's world. But we cannot keep putting them off in these so-called isolated classes called special ed, further indicting them to learn to read and write. And when they finish up the training, we find that they have no training at all, and that these special ed classes are the pipelines to constitutional judiciary system with our babies, where they're finding themselves in courtroom as infants and toddlers. And then when they get to school, they find that school is not for them, and they end up in these special ed classes and indirectly a pipeline into prison. We've got to save our Black families. We've got to integrate our Black families and talk about the way of life, and talk to the judges about our way of life, getting him to accept what the best practices are for those infants and toddlers and preschoolers, so that the court system doesn't further injure these children while in waiting period to return back to the home. I'd like to thank you so much for listening to Our Way of Life today, and this is coming from Omi Inka 7, up under Omi Inka's production studio. You can go out and look up some of my other forms, and please do subscribe down below. Hit the subscribe button down below and be a subscriber and follow me. And you can follow me on Facebook too. Thank you so very much, and you've been a great listening audience, and please do tune in again. Oh, Dabo. Aboboy to you, y'all.